The research on sleep is clear. It's imperative for our good health, and especially for our good mental health. But one of the things that victims first experience when they're in the midst of trauma is sleep disturbances and sleep interruptions. It is common for victims to really struggle to have high quality sleep, to stay asleep, to even fall asleep. When I was dealing with my husband's cancer, that was the first thing that disappeared on me, was getting any decent sleep. And previously, I'd been somebody who had needed a minimum of 9 hours, and suddenly I was surviving on 4 hours a night. When I got into the narcissistically abusive relationship, I found that my sleep continued to be a significant problem, that I often was running exhausted, or that I'd fall asleep suddenly in weird spots at weird times. And yet when I tried to sleep at night and make enough time and even set the right conditions, I would still struggle to sleep through the night. So I'm Dr. Carrie Kerr-McAvoy, and today we're going to talk about what to do to help get your sleep habit back in line. First thing, and I'm going to just kind of talk about good sleep habits in general for anybody, and then we'll talk about the sleep issues that are specific to trauma survivors. It's really important for a good sleep habit to have a regular routine. Our mind, as I've said before, is a meaning-making machine, and it watches for patterns. And one of the things that it watches for is our rituals. For example, when we pour the water and put grounds of coffee in the coffee maker, and then we smell the aroma of it percolating, we know that we're going to soon have a cup of coffee. And our body then anticipates that experience. It even anticipates the caffeine. They've found that people who thought they were drinking an alcoholic beverage but was given a non-alcoholic beverage actually thought that it was alcoholic because of the anticipation and the expectation. The same works for sleep. It's really important that you develop a routine. Like, what do you do consistently every night before you go to bed? Whether it's you brush your teeth or you wash your face, or maybe it's the way you turn down your bed, but make sure that you have a consistent habit that signals to your mind and signals to your body that you're getting ready to go to sleep. It's also important then just to pay attention to your environment. Studies have found having a cool room is better for most people to sleep through the night than having a warmer room. And it's obviously, it's no surprise to say it's really important to have a comfortable mattress and a pillow. Be sure to limit your screen time before you go to sleep. Most computers and mobile devices emit a lot of blue light, which actually overstimulates a chemical in the brain that's a wake up. You would want to limit your exposure to that light, that blue light. So you might want to consider getting glasses that block the blue light, or changing. Some mobile devices actually allow yourself to have to kind of, to reduce the amount of blue light it's emitting, or maybe just get off your phone and shut the computer down a few hours before you plan to go to sleep. And of course, it makes sense to avoid stimulants. You don't want to have coffee, maybe from mid-afternoon on, or anything that might be, overly wakes you up, because that's going to also possibly inhibit sleep. And another one, and this was a hard one for me because I like to take naps. Believe it or not, naps are not a good idea. I know it's a great idea. It feels great to catch that cat nap so that you feel like you have the energy to go for the rest of the day, but doing that can disrupt and or inhibit good sleep, because now you have now got yourself off that circadian rhythm, so that you may not be sleepy when you should be sleepy. So if you're really struggling having a good sleep routine or a good sleep quality, consider omitting the naps. And the another thing is, don't exercise too late. When we exercise, it's actually excreting a lot of chemicals that are sort of wake up and make us more alert. So it's best to put our exercise routine towards the front of the day, not towards the end of the day. So those are the things that are really pivotal in helping us have good sleep habits, but there are some things that are very specific to trauma survivors. One of the issues that a lot of people who've experienced any kind of abuse is they've been living in an environment of chronic lack of safety. So consider whether or not you're in a safe position now. Do you feel like when you go to bed that you know that you're not going to be disrupted, or that no one's going to suddenly wake you up? I've heard so many times of narcissistic abuse survivors describing having their partner wake them up for an argument, or come home and make lots of noise, and so they get into this kind of this anticipation of being interrupted or feeling like they can't just relax and sleep. I'm a sexual assault survivor as a really early child, and that assault often happened in my sleep. So I would wake up being assaulted. So I found that I needed to do certain things just to make my bedroom feel safe. Make sure that you take the steps that you need to create a safe environment so that you feel like you can truly relax and unwind and allow yourself to be vulnerable. Because if you think about it, sleep is an extremely vulnerable time. It's when we are no longer consciously aware, other than we're hoping that our bodies alert enough to pay attention to the sounds of something happening that might indicate danger. So if you've been living in an environment that feels chronically dangerous, it's hard to relax. There's a few things that you might want to do that will help you make that transition from being in the day and doing daytime things to sleeping. You might want to try doing some kind of mindful activity, like doing a meditation, like breath work just before you go to bed. I know there's some yoga routines that are very slow and meditative, and they're very create a right kind of environment for you to feel like you can relax, or set you in the right frame of mind, centering you around your senses, but also just giving you comfort. And it can be really helpful to also find others who are struggling to get support around this. Maybe find a community where you can talk about what's happening with your sleep and to get support with it. I would certainly urge you to talk to your medical professional, your doctor, about this to see if there's any medical support that you might need that could be really, really helpful in improving your sleep. I know that works for some people. It doesn't necessarily work for all trauma survivors. Sometimes it just takes time. Our body's been living at a hyper alert state for a long time, and it kind of gets used to it. And it's used to being on the lookout for danger. And of course, sleeping is a very vulnerable time. And so it says, don't do that. It might mean that you're at risk. So sometimes it takes a period of being out of these situations before we feel like we can let go of this state of alertness. So sometimes it just takes patience. It takes us just being okay with struggling for a while and realizing that it's going to take time for this to heal. I have to say, sleep has always been something that's super important to me. It's something I valued a lot, that it really got affected when I was going through that period of time when Brad was ill, my late husband who was struggling with cancer, and then it got affected again when I was in that narcissistically abusive relationship. And it's still a struggle. I would say, despite being 4 years out, just about now that I'm starting to have more nights of good sleep than not, but it's been a process, and I've had to give myself a lot of emotional support and patience around this, knowing that it's going to take time to heal. So drop me a comment and let me know what works for you and how you're doing with sleep and what kind of steps that you've been taking. And I would love to hear your feedback and hear how it's going for you. And let me know if maybe you have another idea that's super helpful, and I'd love to have you share it with the rest of us.